Hey everyone, I'm Mary Mancusi, author of the upcoming book from Disney, The Camelot Code, The Once and Future Geek. I was on Twitter today and I saw that a couple teachers were asking author advice on revisions. They said that their students aren't really interested after passing in their first draft of their work to change it, to revise it, to make it better. That they're kind of reluctant to do that. And you know what? I have to tell you, so am I. Like, revisions stink. I freaking hate revisions. Oh, I don't like them at all. In fact, I don't know any author who really likes them. I'm pretty sure J.K. Rowling doesn't like revisions. I'm pretty sure Rick Riordan doesn't like revisions. I'm pretty sure almost every author hates them, but we know they must be done. I wanted to show you because, I know you guys have revisions and you got a lot of work ahead of you. Let me show you what I'm working on right now, okay? So I passed in my book, Dragon Ops, which is my next book from Disney, comes out in spring of 2020, so we got a while out. And my editor's like, I love this book. It was so great. I loved everything about it, except here's some suggestions. And there are 7 pages of suggestions to a book she actually liked. Can you imagine if she didn't like the book? I have to go through and read all of these and fix everything in this 300-page book before it can be published. It's going to take me months to do. Actually, I have a month and a half, so it better not take me months. But I have a long time to do it. As you can see, I want to show you a little bit. First, she gives an overall, and then she talks about each character and how she wants to have the characters a little bit tweaked. And after the big things, then she has like bullet points where she kind of just goes over little things that she wants changed. And in the manuscript itself, she also makes more marks on it. So there is a lot to go through. However, I am going to do it. And you know what? At the end of it, even though it's going to stink, even though it's going to take like tons of time and I'm not going to get a lot of sleep and I'm going to be stressed out the whole month, when I pass it in, I know the book is going to be better. And what I want to do is make the best book I can before I send it out to you guys. But while I know it's best, it's still hard. It's hard to take something that I really love and break it apart and, kind of like you're cracking an egg or, breaking a puzzle apart and trying to put it back together again. And it can be really daunting and really scary and hard. And I get it. It's so hard. And yet it's kind of worth it. I want to tell you a quick story. When I was about your age, I wrote the story about a dog who was dying. I loved like sad stories back then. And I loved this story so much, and I showed it to my mom, and she's like, this is the best. And I showed it to my grandma and my aunt. Anyone who would read it, I would show it to them. And they'd be like, oh, you were so talented. Oh, you were so great. And I felt really good about myself, right? And then my mom's like, oh, I met an actual author and she's agreed to look at your story, which is like a huge favor because authors are really busy and usually don't have time for that. So I was like, awesome. So this author's going to read my story and be like, why aren't you published yet? You are so amazing. And so I gave her the story and I waited for her to read it and come back. And eventually she read it and she sent it back and oh my gosh, there were red marks all over it. Every single sentence she had a comment on why the sentence wasn't right. It was like crazy marked up. And she said, I know this looks a little harsh, but this is what my editor would do for me. And I got it back and I looked it over and I cried because I was like so horrified. I'm like, I am not a good writer. I thought she was going to say it was great. And she's like saying it's terrible. And I cried and I pouted and I was like, why did I even show her? What does she know anyway? She probably doesn't even know. She's probably not even a really good author. I mean, I had all these emotions about it. And then I put it aside. I'm like, I'm not going to look at this. And then a few days went past, and I decided to pull it out again. And I realized suddenly that I agreed with some of them. Maybe not everything she said, but there were a lot of good suggestions in there. And so I pulled out my, a new copy, and I started revising. I started to take some of her suggestions and seeing if they would work in my story. And when I was done, I was shocked to find out I had a much better story than I had before, a story that I would be proud to share. And I realized that my first draft, the one that I had shown to my mom and she thought it was so great, it wasn't so great. It wasn't my best work. It was good. It was like my best work, at that moment, but it always had room for improvement. And then I took that story, that revised story, and I entered it in a writing contest that my school had, and I won. I won second prize. But, I won something. I can't even remember what the prize was now, but there was a certificate, and I hung it on my wall, and I was so proud of myself. And I don't know now if that would have happened had that author not taken the time to go through and really give me some tough love on it and say, you know what, this is good, but it could be better. And from then on, I thought of revisions a little bit differently. I said, you know what, it might be worth it to look at other people's suggestions. And I still do that today. Before I even pass in a book, I'll have a friend read it and give me suggestions, like someone who's really honest. And when I pass in the book, of course, my editor is going to give me those 7 pages or more of ideas to make my book better. But you know what? It's worth it. And it's not fun, I know. I'm not saying it's going to suddenly be fun, but I promise you it'll be worthwhile. And that's all I have to say about revisions. I actually have to get back to mine. So good luck with yours, and we'll talk soon on another episode of the Once and Future Writers Club. Oh, the habits of my heart.